The moment Darlene Huxley smashed her fist against my front door and screamed that she'd have my pregnant wife and me forcibly removed from our own home within 48 hours, something inside me snapped. She didn't know who I was. She didn't know I had my body cam running. And she definitely didn't know that in about 10 minutes she'd be the one sitting on the curb in handcuffs while the entire neighborhood filmed her meltdown. But to understand how we got there, you need to know everything that happened before that knock, the slow burn, the twisted escalation, and the moment I almost gave up. My name is Detective Derek Morales. After 7 years working narcotics in Dallas raid stakeouts, late-night calls, I thought moving to the quiet suburb of Heatherwood Pines would finally give me the peace I'd earned. My wife Camilla was pregnant with our first child, and she dreamed of growing lemon trees on a sunny porch and spending calm weekends sipping tea. We found a little fixer-upper on Jasmine Court, a 3-bedroom place with ugly wallpaper but good bones. We were excited, naive, totally unprepared for what was waiting for us. Her name was Darlene Huxley, 5'2", capri pants, clipboard welded to her hand like a weapon. The self-appointed queen of the HOA. She ran Heatherwood Pines like a medieval kingdom. No wind chimes, no garden gnomes, no mailbox color that varied even slightly from regulation beige. I thought neighbors like her were internet jokes. Not real, not possible. I was wrong. 6 hours. 6. After the moving truck backed into our driveway, she'd already slapped 3 eviction notices on our door. Not real eviction notices, mind you, home-printed threats written in Comic Sans like a passive-aggressive middle school newsletter. She also reported Camilla for having an unapproved mailbox tone called Animal Control to claim our emotional support cat was terrorizing the neighborhood and at one point tried to perform a citizen's arrest on my wife. On what grounds? General non-compliance with community aesthetic expectations. I should have walked over right then and shut it all down. But Camilla, being the kind soul she is, thought maybe Darlene was just misunderstood. So she baked empanadas and brought them to her. Darlene cracked open the door, stared at the food like it was radioactive waste, and said, "Ethnic foods aren't welcome in Heatherwood Pines. They attract undesirable elements." That was the first time I truly hated someone I barely knew, and it only escalated. A drone hovered over our backyard during our first barbecue, flying so low I could have slapped it out of the air. It obviously belonged to her. The thing zipped straight toward her house the moment I waved at it. The next day, a city inspector showed up because someone reported I was running a commercial gym out of my garage, that someone had called 6 times. I showed the inspector my badge. He apologized and closed the case immediately. Then came the cactus incident. Camilla placed a tiny cactus, 6 inches tall, cheerful little red flower, on our porch. Hours later, we got an official HOA letter stating that our menacing vegetation posed a danger to neighborhood children and carried a $100 per day fine. That was the moment I realized we were at war. And if decades of law enforcement taught me anything, it's this document, everything. So I installed cameras, saved every email, recorded every confrontation. I didn't know when I'd need the evidence, but I knew the day would come. It came faster than I expected. One Thursday morning, I opened the door and found another eviction notice taped to it with enough Scotch tape to wrap an entire Christmas tree. It accused us of violating 17 HOA bylaws, none of which actually existed, and ordered us to vacate within 7 days. And she signed it, President, CEO, and Supreme Authority. My captain laughed so hard he nearly cried when I showed him the paper. Then he stopped laughing and said, "Derek, people like that escalate. Be careful." I should have paid more attention, because the next week, Darlene filed an official county complaint claiming we were squatters who had broken into our own home. She forged documents that proved she had ownership rights through some imaginary HOA clause. She even submitted a pixelated, horribly photoshopped image of me holding what she described as a weapon. It was very obviously my leaf blower with a gun handle clumsily edited on. When I saw that file, my stomach dropped. Not because I was scared of the lies, but because I started wondering if moving here had been a terrible mistake. For the first time in ages, I felt powerless. I lay awake at night asking myself, did I screw this up? Did I put Camilla in danger? Should we just leave before this spirals further? That moment of weakness haunted me. I'm a detective. I deal with dangerous people all the time. Yet here I was, losing sleep over a woman who dressed like a substitute teacher and weaponized neighborhood bylaws. But then came the turning point. Friday afternoon, I had taken the day to review case files at home. Even off the streets, I was technically working phone-active body cam on alerts pinging. And that's when the golf cart arrived. It rolled up to my driveway like a discount parade float, HOA flags, fluttering tinny music playing from a speaker strapped to the roof. Darlene climbed out wearing a rhinestone-covered badge that said HOA Enforcement Division. Behind her stood Stanley, a retired accountant who always looked lost, and Beverly, the clipboard enforcer with a terrifying addiction to measuring grass. Darlene marched up to my door and pounded so hard the frosted glass shook. Under my authority, she declared, you are ordered to vacate these premises within 48 hours. Failure to comply will result in forcible removal. Curtains all up and down the street fluttered. Every neighbor was watching. And that's when everything snapped into place inside me, the doubt, the fear, the anger, all of it. I wasn't losing this fight. Not against her. Not when my wife was inside, anxious, clutching her belly. I opened the door, slowly, calmly. Darlene's face went rigid. Stanley lifted his phone, already filming their so-called victory. Beverly hugged her clipboard like it could protect her from reality. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my badge, and held it up. "Ma'am," I said, using the tone I usually reserve for arrests and courtrooms. "I'm Detective Derek Morales with the Heatherwood Pines Police Department, and you have just committed several crimes." Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. She looked like a goldfish trying to scream. "You can't," she stammered. "I am the authority here." "No," I said, "you're under arrest." And that was when she made her final mistake, her most glorious, beautiful mistake. She tried to push past me into the house. Then, realizing what she'd done, she whipped around, dove into her golf cart, and floored it. 12 miles an hour, full speed. She attempted a dramatic turn onto the sidewalk and immediately flipped the entire thing. She went tumbling into her prized hedge. Yes, the same hedge she once fined a neighbor for trimming unevenly. By the time the sheriff's deputies arrived, every neighbor was outside recording. Beverly had dropped her clipboard. Stanley looked ready to pass out. I handed Deputy Chen a flash drive full of evidence, emails, documents, drone footage, threats, everything. As he scrolled through the files, his eyebrows climbed so high I thought they'd disappear into his hat. "She said she owned your house, and that cactus was a public threat." "She did," I said. "This is something." Darlene was hauled off the curb and into custody, leaves still tangled in her hair. And the story exploded. Neighbors uploaded dozens of videos from every angle. News vans rolled in. Social media went insane. Someone even made a song remix of Darlene screaming, "I am the law." And then came the real fallout. 6 criminal charges. A judge who held her in contempt multiple times. A plea deal. $47,000 in fines. 2 years probation. 300 hours of community service helping low-income housing families. Oh, the irony. And the kicker, 10 years banned from holding any position of authority in the entire county. No HOA boards, no PTAs, no neighborhood watches, nothing. Her kingdom collapsed overnight. The HOA held an emergency meeting. Residents told stories, harassment, discrimination, intimidation. They removed Darlene unanimously. Then they dissolved the entire HOA. They replaced it with a neighborhood suggestion box that mostly collected cookie recipes and missing pet flyers. But the final twist, the poetic justice, was this: after civil lawsuits rolled in from almost every neighbor she'd tormented, Darlene lost her home. It was auctioned off and bought by a mixed-race family with 3 kids, 2 dogs, and a love for loud, colorful yard art. They painted the front door purple and installed a 6-foot garden gnome named Gerald and Darlene. When the judge read her sentence, she gripped the defendant's table so hard her knuckles turned white. She whispered one broken line, barely audible. "But I was the president." That was the end of her reign right there in that courtroom with a single crack of the gavel. And if there's one thing I learned through all of this, it's simple. When someone abuses borrowed power long enough, sooner or later, the real authority shows up.